Glee scares the out of me, okay? Like, if Glee was a person, I wouldn't want to know this person. Do all bad things come in threes? Because they do.
To another story that is breaking overnight. A star of the popular show Glee,
Corey Monteith.
The deceased has been identified as 31-year-old actor Corey Monteith.
But things took a tragic turn on Saturday afternoon when the
star of Glee was found dead in his hotel room.
Cause of death has not been determined, but police don't suspect foul play.
Conclusions are being drawn based on the actor's struggles with substance abuse.
The coroner says the 31-year-old actor died of a mixed drug toxicity involving heroin and alcohol.
Today's news deals with some tough subjects, so you might not want your children in the room.
Breaking news, an actor from the hit show Glee,
Mark Salling, has been found dead.
The one-time popular primetime actor's body was reportedly found near a riverbed where he lives in Sunland, California.
Salling was awaiting sentencing
just after being busted on child porn charges.
Police had reportedly found over 55,000 images of child pornography on the actor's computer and devices.
He always was a very dark soul to me.
911. Lake Piru. The emergency is we have a missing person.
Actress Naya Rivera, last seen alive in this surveillance video, leaving the dock for a fun afternoon with her 4-year-old son.
This is the situation Glee star Naya Rivera found herself in.
As you know, since last Wednesday, we've been here at Lake Piru searching for Naya Rivera.
A body has just been found at Lake Piru.
So there's some pretty popular YouTubers and news sources that have began to speculate on Naya Rivera's death, as they do when any celebrity dies. The only thing in this whole world that attracts more fixation than celebrity culture is death. So naturally, when you put celebrity and death together, you open a whole bucket of worms of crazy obsessed stalker fans that analyse everything from the last known whereabouts of a celebrity to what the texture and smell of their last known poop was like. Oh, and you're not allowed to call people out for this because everyone has their way of dealing with grief and they just want to get the truth out there and help. But it's creepy, a bit manic, and for the most part I think we can all agree that it's going to be damaging to the investigation and the family's mental state. But herder, the Internet Council have spoken. So the newly dubbed Glee curse is a new trend taking Twitter, YouTube and even mainstream media outlets by storm as click-hungry creators try to bandwagon a celebrity death and milk it for all it's worth. Welcome to the year 2020!
You guys know Naya Rivera. She was an actress or a singer, but she died recently, and like 5 or so years ago, I had an affair with her, and I figured now that she's gone, it's fine for me to talk about it, cause it's fun. You know the saying, try everything once? Well, I tried everything once on Naya Rivera. Probably more like twice. That girl was crazy.
So before we get into the Glee curse, I need to talk about something called the Curse of Superman.
Up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
The Superman curse refers to a series of supposedly related misfortunes that have plagued creative people involved in the adaptations of Superman in various media, particularly actors who have played the role of Superman on film and television. The curse is frequently associated with George Reeves, who starred in The Adventures of Superman on television from 1952 to 1958 and died of a gunshot wound at age 45 under disputed circumstances, although it was officially ruled as a suicide. The other is Christopher Reeve, who played the superhero in 4 theatrical films from 1978 to 1987 and was paralysed in 1995 in a horseback riding accident and died 9 years later at 52 from heart failure. Look, I'm not going to doll it up, it's pretty horrifying stuff. But there's a but, and it's a big but. The mention of this curse happens every time someone involved in these films dies. So you could be Joe, who used to get coffee for the sound guys, and whenever that person dies, this was getting spread all over the tabloid press. It's kind of messed up. A more prosaic explanation for the alleged curse is given the high number of people that were involved in the many adoptions and treatments of Superman over the years. Misfortunes are going to naturally happen, as they would in any substantial sampling of random individuals. But that didn't stop the media from doing front page spreads and investigations into the myth. And why? Because it's a cheap cash grab for selling papers, and it worked. So much so that after the untimely death of one of the best actors of our generation, Heath Ledger, media outlets were quick to dub him victim of a supposed Joker curse, and up until that point, there was no such thing. They fabricated the myth out of thin air. It was just another way to sensationalize a celebrity's death. The Joker was once a campy role played by Cesar Romero in Adam West's Batman days, but over time with Jack Nicholson's more darker approach, it made it easier for the media to connote the role as evil. And of course, Heath Ledger's career-defining performance as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight only solidified the idea of the role being curse-worthy. And well, the fact of the matter is, only one of those actors have died of unfortunate circumstances, and it was Heath Ledger from an overdose. The only other person to die is Cesar Romero in 1994, but that was of natural causes. But of course, this is a detail that would have been overlooked. Who would want to buy a headline saying actor dies peacefully surrounded by a loving family? It just doesn't sell as much as next victim of the Joker curse. So now that we have a bit of understanding about why the tabloid press dub things curses, let's get back to what the point of this video is. The Glee curse was already beginning to get a bit of traction after Mark Salling was caught red-handed with having several thousand photos and videos of one of the worst things humanly possible to have. And this happened just a year and a half after Corey Monteith's death in July 2013. So as you can imagine, theorists and fans of this show went into overdrive when Mark eventually took his life to avoid jail time. People were speculating when the next tragedy would hit. Many believe Lea Michele was going to take her own life after recently being exposed by the Glee cast for virtue signalling support of the Black Lives Matter movement, when it actually turned out that she was making non-white Glee cast members feel unwelcome on the set. And while I'm glad Lea got served a slice of humble pie the size of the Empire State Building, it's a little messed up. The fans on Twitter were hoping that she would be the next tragedy. It's sick. I said it once, and I'll say it again. People that get involved in cancel culture are not nice people. Holding people accountable for their actions is different to wishing bad things to happen to someone, or proactively harassing someone until they hurt themselves. But tragedy did eventually hit, and unfortunately on the 8th of July 2020, Naya Rivera was announced to be missing. But something I noticed just as it was announced that Naya was missing was this huge influx of clickbait content on YouTube and online articles talking about Naya being victim of the Glee curse. Now remember, Naya was only announced missing on the 8th of July, 4 hours after she rented a boat at 1 PM. But within a few short hours, content was already flooding the internet saying that Naya Rivera was the next victim of the Glee curse. Just like the Superman and Joker curse, content creators like YouTubers and online journalists were on this like flies on dog. They don't care about Naya, and if they did, they wouldn't be speculating about her supernatural death 10 minutes after it was announced she was missing. Just to put this in perspective for you, could you imagine this was your sister or your mum or your daughter, and you've just been delivered the most devastating news of 2020, and you're hoping that your sister or your daughter or your mother will be found, and you go online and start seeing all this speculation about her already being dead from supernatural causes? So now if you happen to search for Naya, all you see is these articles and videos talking about her death is in some way connected to the death of a pedo. You don't see anything about how she helped thousands of LGBT kids and how her last breath pushed her son onto a boat to save him and not herself. And this is what her son is going to be left to look through when he's trying to research who his mother was. I would say this is the only content that I have seen on YouTube that I think is worse than cancel culture and drama channels. Like this here is the worst. It's shameless. I would say this content is on par with Jay Station attempting to contact Attica a month after he committed suicide. That's how bad it is, because it's clickbaiting a tragedy, and in my eyes, that is one of the most disgusting things that you could do to make any sort of profit. If you have to rely on clickbaiting a person's death to pay the bills, then you really need to evaluate another source of income, because that is messed up. I think one of the worst comments I've ever seen was this one right here. She said she had an abortion years ago. It's very common for the elites to sacrifice children. For all we know, that's what she traded for her short-lived amount of fame. Ironically, he child was now the same man she had her previous aborted. They found their way back to each other later on and had another child. Maybe now her choice was to save this child over herself. At least she had a few years with him before her contract was up. At this point, I have no words. This trend will only continue to get more preposterous as life goes on, which is not healthy. These people are creating fear out of coincidences, and they're passing them off as these logical, well-thought ideas, but that's nothing further from the truth. In its truest sense, this is a few people trying to earn coin from complete and utter BS, manufacturing a myth for clicks.
Now, it's said that every springtime, a lot of bizarre events happen where fishermen that go out on these waters never return home, and countless people recall hearing the cries of lost water babies. Water babies.
The worst of all the culprits are the professional psychics and mediums on YouTube. My issue with this is that they have cultivated an audience of people that are in a very vulnerable state, a lot of them going through grief, and they take advantage of them, to be brutally honest with you. So what we have is a few people present themselves as spiritually enlightened and omnipotent. They talk about why Glee is cursed based on their own flawed spiritual logic.
The rule of threes is real. It's not like it's something that, it can't be scientifically proven, but science can't prove a lot of things right now.
That card, for me, symbolizes, again, confirming that there is potentially some kind of magical curse around the Glee cast members.
And what do all of these people have in common? Right in the top of their description, they have a shameless plug. A plug? During a tragedy? Well, where have we seen this before?
Breonna Taylor still has no justice. But what's coming next is one of my most exciting projects ever.
And they aren't cheap. Some of these guys charge upwards of $200 if you're seeking some closure from a dead loved one. This is like next level disgusting. These people are blatantly using the death of Naya and this trend to promote their business. Look, I don't care what you believe in, but I would say the same no matter what religion or cause this was. But co-opting a tragedy such as a death for monetary gain is just gross. Look, this video has been really doom and gloom, and I want to apologise for that. I am sorry, but for the last part of this video, I want to go through some of the lifetime achievements that Naya Rivera has had and her lasting impact on pop culture. With her diverse acting roles, Rivera was seen as one of the earliest and most profound examples of both Afro-Latina and queer Latina representation on primetime television. In 2011, the president of GLAAD said Rivera's storyline as Santana was one that hasn't been told on primetime television at this level, particularly by an LGBT teen of colour. In industry tributes after her death, NBC wrote that Rivera redefined queer and Afro-Latina representation on TV. Lionsgate wrote that her remarkable contributions to our industry created a lasting memory. Digital Spy said Naya Rivera's impact was nothing short of groundbreaking. NME called her a trailblazer who leaves behind an enormously powerful legacy. Queer media journalist Dana Piccoli wrote a tribute feature on the actress's legacy for NBC, saying, "I don't use the word legacy lightly, but Rivera and her beloved Glee character Santana Lopez helped change queer television history." Piccoli stated that later examples of representation, like Elena Era on the One at a Time, are attributable to Rivera's role. Stephen Canales, co-creator of the 2008 Pose, which is set in queer African American Latin culture, wrote that he will never be able to articulate the importance of seeing Naya Rivera, a black Puerto Rican portraying a queer Afro-Latina on primetime TV at that time. Naya dedicated her time to organisations including GLAAD, Stand Up to Cancer, The Trevor Project, The Elephant Project, Sunshine Foundation, I Am an Immigrant, Alliances of Moms, Point Foundation, The Thirst Project, Feed, Los Angeles Mission, Get Schooled, and the Kindred Foundation. Discussing Rivera on Glee, Elisa Ramirez for the Oprah magazine wrote that her casting was impactful from the start and that her existence on the small screen confirmed that people from her background can be successful. Before the representation grew as the character developed, not only was she an Afro-Latina actress on primetime network television, but she was playing one of the most visible Latin lesbians in primetime TV. A BBC retrospect in 2020 looked at the impact of Rivera's role as Santana and provided important representation internationally for young queer women and the idea of being out in the music industry. Naya Rivera leaves one son behind, Josie Hollis Dorsey, who is 4 years old.
How do you like working with Mr. Fox?
I like it.
Yeah, that's good. Now, what did you do before this show, The Royal Family?
I stayed home and I did pictures.
Yeah, commercials. Yeah, because you're beautiful. You could be a model. Would you like to do some modeling when you grow up?
I did that.
Oh, excuse me?